everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser, and it is a special Friday afternoon, as a matter of fact. It is literally afternoon, just a little bit today. It's my mom's birthday, so happy birthday to Hawk Blogger Mom out there. And thanks to everybody who donated to the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation. That was really, really cool of all of you. It made her very happy, and the walk is tomorrow, which is the day after her birthday. So a lot of good stuff there, and appreciate all of you. Didn't get to you as early as I normally do. I was staring out at the weather, and I just thought, man, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to play a round of golf and enjoy the beautiful weather. I'm going to get out first on the tee sheet and get out there in 4 hours or less. I think it was probably 3.5 hours to get out of there. It was great. And for those of you that care about my golf game, I was like 2 over on the back nine with 3 holes to go. Had a nice chip in for birdie, was hitting the ball pretty well, and then went bogey, double. And so finished with a 42 on the back nine. It's too bad, but still a reasonably acceptable round, mid 80s. I'll take that. And what a gorgeous, gorgeous day. I hope you all get a chance to get out there and enjoy this Friday, this perfect Friday in the PNW. And I'm excited about the show today. So sometimes I'll do prep pre-show. Sometimes, old school HB mornings was sometimes I just have a question and I would hang out with all of you and I'd go through and try to find my answer with you. And we'll do this kind of collaboratively. So this is kind of a little bit of a mix of that, but mostly it's the latter. There's been some talk about Trey Hendrickson, who we know has not come up to an agreement with the Bengals on a deal. And there are, rumors that continue to kind of kick around about whether or not a team will trade for him. We're going to talk about that. I've been very negative about that move. I'm going to open up my mind to it. We're going to explore it here. We're going to talk about all the ups and downs. But there's another move that I think has been less discussed. And I think it was something I've been thinking about. And then I got a text from Jeff Simmons earlier this week. And he's like, do you think that they might make a move for Jalen Ramsey? And I was like, yeah, I've been thinking about the same thing. So they have brought in Shaquille Griffin. They have brought in Rasul Douglas. We know they are looking for veteran corner to compete with Josh Jobe, to give them a little bit more depth in that cornerback room. So there's a cornerback we know is on the trade market. His name's Jalen Ramsey. We have a lot of familiarity with him. It would be very ironic for DK Metcalf to be gone and Jalen Ramsey to come in, knowing how much the two of them went toe-to-toe for years in the NFC West. I will admit bias going into this show. I think it makes more sense for the Seahawks to make a move for Jalen Ramsey, but I want to explore both. Because the thing that I know, even before I kind of dive into some numbers and some aspects of these moves, that leans towards Trey Hendrickson is, I talked about this with all of you, with Jeff, with others heading into the offseason. I was like, don't totally mark off edge as an option, because an elite edge rusher is the exact thing this team needs to get over the hump to being a truly elite defense. Like, that's the thing. They have good edge rushers. They do not yet have a guy that requires double teams, that teams have to game plan for, that they shift the protection scheme to, and opens up things for all sorts of other guys on the line. Trey Hendrickson is that guy, or he has been that guy. And that's really, really valuable. So I don't think it's out of the question that at the end of this show, I will have changed my mind and will have shifted towards Trey Hendrickson as a possibility. But let's go through. Let's talk about both. Let's talk about what trade compensation likely would be required. Let's talk about the contracts that likely would be implicated by it. And then let's talk about the players themselves. let's start with the players because that's kind of the fun thing. And we're also going to talk about the fit and where they would fit on the team. So I want to start with Jalen Ramsey, to be honest, but I'm going to force myself to start with Trey Hendrickson. And if I look at Trey Hendrickson, let's take a look at Trey Hendrickson. So first, we're just going to look numbers. And I have not done this. So I know some of these numbers already, but we're going to dive in a little further. So Trey Hendrickson is 6'4", 270 pounds. The 270 pounds is an important number. He's lighter than I remember because I think he used to actually be an outside linebacker when he played for the Saints. He has moved to essentially a down lineman, like a true defensive end in more of a 4-3 defense. But 270 pounds, that's right around the Jadeveon Clowney size where, Mike McDonald has employed guys of that size in his defense. He is 30 years old. He was born in December of 94. So he will be 31 in December of this year. Okay, we're going to talk about the implications of being a little bit older when you're an edge rusher. When the calendar turns over to past 30 as an edge rusher, it's a warning sign. So we'll talk about that. But this is a guy who has just been dominant in his time in Cincinnati. He went his last season in New Orleans in 2020. He had 13 and a half sacks. In 2021, he had 14 sacks. 2022, he had his worst season, and it was 8 sacks. Then he goes 17 and a half, back to back. Let's have a little fun here. Have the Seahawks ever had a player with 17 or more sacks in a season? I think I know the answer to this question, but let's find out. Let's find out if the Seahawks have ever had a player with 17 or more sacks in a season. Again, I think I know the answer, but let's find out real time because that's kind of fun. So pulling this open right now. They've never had a player over 17 sacks. Does anyone want to guess? Anyone want to guess who had the most sacks in Seahawks history in a single season? Give me your guesses. It's not going to last for long. The correct number of sacks for the most ever for a Seahawk is 16 and a half. And it was done in 1998. That is your clue. 1998. So if you're thinking Jacob Green, you would be wrong. Jacob Green is second highest. He had 16 sacks in 1983. It wasn't Jacob Green. 1998, it wasn't Tez. Cortez Kennedy was not putting up 16 and a half sacks that late in his career. All right. The correct answer is Michael Sinclair, one of the most underrated pass rushers in Seahawks history. So Trey Hendrickson has done in back-to-back seasons what a Seahawk player has never done in a single season. Granted, 17 games, 16 games, but don't take the fun away. It's still cool to say. So 17 and a half sacks back-to-back for Trey Hendrickson. I'm also curious, with the sacks he's been putting up since 2020, has any player had more sacks than Trey Hendrickson since 2020? He's been putting up numbers, folks. So let's take a look here. Who has had the most sacks? Most sacks since 2020 and from any team. All right. Do you think Trey Hendrickson's number one? I mean, he might be. He is not number one. There are 2 players that have more sacks than Trey Hendrickson since 2020. Do you want to guess who has more sacks than Trey Hendrickson since 2020? Come on. Give me a guess. First one, number 1 on the list is TJ Watt. TJ Watt has 73.5 sacks since 2020. I think you can guess number 2, maybe the best defensive player in the game. He just signed a big deal. It's not Danielle Hunter. It is Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett has 72 sacks. Trey Hendrickson has 70.5. So there are 3 players in the NFL since 2020 that have 70 plus sacks since that year. TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson. That is a pretty impressive list to be a part of. After Trey Hendrickson, it drops down to 53.5 for Nick Bosa, from 70.5 for Trey Hendrickson to 53.5. There's nobody else that even has a 60 sack total since 2020. So this guy has been, absolutely, unquestionably one of the best pass rushers, the best edge rushers in the NFL. What does PFF think about him? How is he as not just a pass rusher, but as a run defender and other things? How does PFF think about Trey Hendrickson? Maybe this doesn't matter at all to you. I'm curious. I like gathering information. This is my process. So, interestingly, Trey Hendrickson has pretty much had his grade go up every single year of his career. Wow. That's kind of wild. So Trey Hendrickson came into the league 61.5 graded player, then 65, then 68, then 71, then 73, then 82, then 83, then 88. So he's gotten better each and every season, and he has been durable. He played in 2021, he played 893 snaps. In 2022, he played 732 snaps. In 2023, 742. And last year, 823. So he has played a lot of snaps. That could be a good thing, bad thing, depending, but generally he has been durable. Now, his pass rush grades are excellent, elite. A 90.4 pass rush grade last year, a 90.7 the year before, 87.7, 86.9. These are all pro level pass rush grades. However, run defense, not so good. 65.9 last year is not terrible, but 51, 58, 41, 53. This is not the best part of his game. And I think it's worth just understanding the player you're talking about. From a coverage perspective, because if he's going to play in this defense, the edges are expected to drop into coverage occasionally. Boye Mafe had to learn that last year. Derek Hall, he had 36 coverage snaps last year, 30, 41, 55. Just out of curiosity, if I look up Boye Mafe, how many coverage snaps did he have last year? He had 61 last year. What about Derek Hall? Derek Hall had 36 coverage snaps. So not crazy, like not totally out of the question that he could come here and play outside. He's not great in coverage. He had like a 60 grade, 47. Did have 1 year where he did a 76 grade, 61, whatever. Like it seems fine. All right. So he kind of passes the test in terms of if you're looking for a game-wrecking edge, Trey Hendrickson does meet the bar. Now, I want to share some stuff with you guys. Okay, I'll share this screen. This is from our friends over at Field Vision. All right. And let me make it bigger for you. All right. Even bigger. All right. So this is looking at sacks versus pressure rate. I think maybe, can I make this even bigger? No, that's not what that does. Anyway, I think I can. Ooh, I don't like that. All right. Let's do it this way. Old school. All right. So this is pressure rate versus sack rate. And this is Trey Hendrickson all the way up here, next to Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, Nick Bonito. Pretty good. Derek Hall down here. So Trey Hendrickson ranked second in the NFL amongst defensive ends or edge players in sack percentage, and he ranked sixth in pressure rate. The Seahawks' best player in this regard, Derek Hall, ranked 19th and 30th, just to give you an idea. Draymond Jones ranked 65th and 29th. Somewhere in here is Boye Mafe. I'm not seeing him right off the jump. So I might be blind. He might just be hard to see. As we look through it a little bit more detail, and we look at stop percentage. This is an interesting one where we get into, this is the defense, this is the run defense part of it. As I kind of scroll through here, Trey Hendrickson, 21st. Not terrible. Again, pressure rate, he's going to be high up there. So let's take a look at Trey Hendrickson in a little bit more detail. And his overall ranking, they do a Havoc ranking. We've had Coach Cody Alexander on here, who's the mind behind all of the numbers here. And he has him as the 11th ranked defensive end in the NFL. Pass rush, 3rd ranked. Run defense, 43rd. So this is another evaluation saying not the best run defender. Coverage, 46th. Again, not the best coverage player, but I don't think that's what you're doing when you attack this guy. Now, this is interesting. This is proportion of snaps. Which side of the line of scrimmage is he coming from? He is coming from often from the left tackle a little bit, but coming after the tight end. So he's not rushing from the right side of the line. He's rushing from against the left tackle, and against often, it looks like they're often giving him a lot of additional help with tight ends on that side. That's an interesting view. If we look back previous years, just curious if he's got any different profile for where he's going. But no, it seems similar. All right. So if we know that he's a good player, I don't think that's really what anyone's curious about. I think one of the questions here is, how do you deal with a guy that's getting older who is in his contract year? And where we are with you don't have to really worry about the Seahawks salary cap so much. The Seahawks have plenty of cap space. They have $31 million in cap space as it stands. And if we look at edge rushers, and right now, Trey Hendrickson is being paid $21 million per year. He obviously, the reason he's even a question of a trade candidate for the Bengals is that he is in the last year of his deal and he wants a new contract. He is due a base salary of $16 million. And the Bengals would save $16 million if they made a trade. It is going to be post June 1st here any day now. So by the way, this is when some of these things happen. You can make these trades post June 1st, starting 2 days from now, I think, right? And we will, I think we'll see more activity after that point. So keep an eye on the June 1st timeframe. All right. Now, if he wants a new deal, the guys Myles Garrett just signed a new deal at age 30, a year younger, but he's in a similar category. his deal is a scary deal. He just signed a 4-year, $160 million extension with the Browns. $124 million is guaranteed. $89 million is fully guaranteed. So that is a huge chunk of change you're talking about. You're talking about a $21 million cap number this year, then 24, then 28, then 31. And then by 2029, it's a $63 million cap hit, 57. My assumption is by then, it's really probably a 4-year deal that takes him into his age 33 season. And then they'd either renegotiate or they'd move on or whatever. So it probably truly is a 4-year deal, but you've got $89 million fully guaranteed. So let's say it's a 4-year deal and $89 million is fully guaranteed. You're talking about $22.5 million per year. That's not crazy. So in that regard, I don't think it's totally out of the question, but Myles Garrett is a year younger and I think more of an athletic freak. Then you get to guys like Max Crosby, who again just signed a new extension. He is 28 years old. He signed a 4-year, $94 million deal. Again, interesting next to Garrett, who's 4 years with 89 fully guaranteed. There's some close aspects there. Crosby only had $53 million in guarantees and only $26 million fully guaranteed. So that's interesting to me that Crosby is certainly one of the premier edge rushers in the game. And that contract is a lot different than what Myles Garrett got. So Crosby's also 2 years younger, maybe 3 years younger, actually 3 years younger than Trey Hendrickson. And his cap number is going to be pretty big. It's interesting. Like they moved the cap more, they pushed it forward. So $38 million this year, $36 million next year. And then it goes down to $29 million, $27 million, $28 million. That's interesting. It looks like the signing bonus is all being paid within the first 2 seasons. Huh. That's an interesting contract structure that they did. So, oh wait, they added 3 void years? Is that what I'm missing here? Maybe that's what I'm missing. Maybe these are void years. Okay. Yeah, that might be what's going on. Okay, he just agreed to a 3-year, $106 million extension. Anyway, we don't have to get into the details there. Point being, I think you're going to be talking about, I mean, $30 million a year player probably is probably what he's looking at. And at age 31, that's a concern. But you look at the Seahawks and you look at the fit there. The question I have with Trey Hendrickson is, all right, you have Uchenna Nwosu, you have Boye Mafe, you have Derek Hall, and you have DeMarcus Lawrence. You're not moving on from Mafe, Hall, or Lawrence. I don't think, like Lawrence you just signed, I don't think there's any reason you trade him. Uchenna, you just did a restructure to reduce his salary to keep him on the team. I think you're willing to move on from Uchenna Nwosu, but I don't know that the deal that they just made makes sense to do that. Let me take a quick look at Uchenna Nwosu's contract, even see if it is tradable. So Uchenna Nwosu signed, he got a pay cut to $7 million in 2025. He did get $7 million in guarantees and a $4 million signing bonus. So interestingly, if the Seahawks were to trade Uchenna Nwosu, who is 29 years old, after June 1st, they would save $3.3 million in cap space. So it's not a out of the question move that they would do something like that. I think they like Uchenna Nwosu, but obviously he's not Trey Hendrickson. And as much as I like Chenna, I'm not going to make the case that he's better than Trey Hendrickson. So from a numbers perspective, you open up $3.3 million more in your cap this year. You open up $11.5 million more next year. It could make some sense. If they found a deal where they included Uchenna Nwosu in that trade and the Bengals wanted him, then let's talk about what the trade compensation would be. When are edge rusher trades? Let's take a look at, see if I can find a good view here. We're going to go 2020. And we're going to say, let's look at defensive ends. All right, I will share my screen with you so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Nothing, mind-boggling, and I don't usually like using this site, but it has some decent stuff here. So this is just defensive end. We can look at outside linebacker as well. Za'Darius Smith last year, I don't think that's really comparable, but he was traded for a 5th and a 6th. Well, this year, 5th, and next year, 6th. Chase Young was traded to the 49ers for a 3rd round pick. Montez Sweat, that's probably a better one, was traded for a 2nd round pick back in 2023. Leonard Williams, we know that, was traded for a 2nd and a 5th. Let's see, there's Za'Darius Smith getting traded again. Yannick Ngakoue, I don't think that makes sense. Chase Winovich. Yeah, none of these are. I think some of the ones that we talked about, I think, make a little bit of sense. I think you're talking about a 2nd round pick, at least. Let's take a look at outside linebacker, just in case there's something else that pops up that makes a lot more sense. Darrell Taylor, Matt Judon was for a 3rd round pick. That's kind of wild. Hassan Reddick was a 3rd round pick. Could have moved up to a 2nd depending on snaps, but it didn't. Montez Sweat, 2nd round pick we talked about. So Bradley Chubb was traded along with Bradley Chubb and a 5th round pick for a 1st rounder and a 4th rounder, as well as Chase Edmonds, the running back. Bradley Chubb was pretty young at that point. So I think it's possible that the Bengals will want a 1st round pick. I'm not sure they're going to find a taker of a 1st rounder. Would you, if the Seahawks had to trade a 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick, they redid the Leonard Williams trade, who was also similar age, a little bit younger, a 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick, and maybe Uchenna Nwosu. And then you had to pay, maybe a 2nd round pick and Uchenna Nwosu makes more sense. And then you are going to pick up the salary. Alternatively, you could maybe this is the one I wonder about. What do you guys think about this? If you were to trade Boye Mafe, who's in the last year of his deal, who is a young ascending edge rusher that the Bengals could then sign and feel very good about, and if it was Boye Mafe and a 3rd round pick, 4th round pick, something like that, how would you feel about that? Now, I don't like giving up young ascending players for older players, but you're going to be giving up significantly less in terms of draft capital to do that. You'd be a better team this year, assuming health and all that kind of stuff. Trey Hendrickson would make you a much better team this year. 2 years from now, probably not. And so it makes it kind of a go for it now move. It's the kind of move that John Schneider would do, but you don't generally move on from young ascending talent. I think Boye Mafe is that. I don't know if Boye Mafe has more in him than the 8 to 10 sack season. Is he a guy that can go up to 13, 14, 15 sacks in a year? If he is, you can't do it. But what's the percentage chance that he's going to become that? That's your guiding light. And for me, I think there's maybe like a 25% chance that Boye Mafe becomes that. I think there's probably a much greater chance that he is an 8 to 11 sack player in his career. And that's very valuable, but it's not dominant. So I don't know. I will say, having gone through that process with Trey Hendrickson, I am more open to it than I've been. I think the main thing that I have that I'm challenged with about making a move for Trey Hendrickson is where the Seahawks are in their development. I don't think they are Trey Hendrickson away from being Super Bowl contenders, but maybe they are. Part of it is because I don't know. I have not seen these guys on the field. I have not seen them play to where I could feel confident that going kind of all in with a move for Trey Hendrickson, which that's what it would be if you're trading one of your young ascending players, you're trading a second round pick, and you're spending $30 million a year, whatever it would be on a contract. That's a very aggressive move. And generally to do that, you are much more clear about your path to a Super Bowl than I think the Seahawks are. So let's talk about the other option. We'll come back to Trey Hendrickson, but let's talk about the other option. If you haven't already, give the show a like, click subscribe. I would appreciate you doing that. And go on over to patreon.com/hawkblogger. Sign up there, get ad-free audio of this show each and every day. Also get access to the Discord channel where we're having hundreds of folks talk all the time about Seahawks, about Mariners, about Kraken, whatever you're into. And by the way, if you missed my announcement, the HB ticket exchange, which I'm still working on, not this morning because I was out golfing, but I'm going to keep working on that. That will be up soon. And being a Patreon member is going to be a key part of that. So you want to go over to patreon.com/hawkblogger. You also check the hat. If you haven't already, jkboots.com, use code hawkblogger, gets you $75 off. Best pair of boots you're going to own. Great gift, great Father's Day gift. And $15 will go to the Wildland Firefighters Foundation. If you know anything about the Northwest, you know about the summers. We've seen more forest fires than we have. The forest firefighters are, heroes in this area. We will give $15 to the Wildland Firefighters Foundation for everyone that uses code HawkBlogger to buy a pair of boots. We've donated a bunch already. We've donated boots to Wildland Firefighters. We've donated money to help them get equipment, all sorts of stuff to keep them safe so they can keep our Northwest forests safe. So appreciate all you guys supporting in all the different ways that you do. All right, let's talk Jalen Ramsey. So Jalen Ramsey is a different kind of player. He is maybe different than what you even think. I have to admit, when I first thought about Jalen Ramsey, I was like, he's over the hill. He's done. I think Jalen Ramsey's done. Well, Jalen Ramsey is 30 years old, just like Trey Hendrickson. Instead of December, he was born in October. So a couple months separates these two players. Jalen Ramsey, 6'1", 208 pounds. He started in Jacksonville, went to the Rams, and then went to the Dolphins. And he has been, at times during his career, the best player at his position in the sport. He has made multiple All-Pros. He has made, 8 Pro Bowls. He has 24 career interceptions. Not a ton, but not a small number either. He's had at least 2 interceptions each year for the past 4 seasons. As far as passes defensed, he he missed some time in 2023. He only played 10 games, but in his last 3 full seasons, he had 11, 18, and 16 passes defensed. To give you some comparison, let me bring up Tariq Woolen's numbers. Woolen has had 14, 11, and 16 passes defensed over the last few seasons. So, pretty similar in that regard. He is also a good run defender. And let me double check to see if I'm not spinning tails. But my recollection is that he is good in run support as well. Big guy, 208 pounds. Yes. So he had an 85.7 run defense grade last year. Now I got to look to see where he ranks as far as run defenders for cornerbacks in the NFL. My guess is he is at or near the top of run defenders in the NFL at the cornerback position. Well, you probably already know this, but the third best run defending corner in the NFL already is on the Seahawks. His name's Devin Witherspoon. He had an elite 90.0 grade as a run defender last year from the cornerback position. Jalen Ramsey was 9th. So you'd be talking about adding a second top 10 run defending corner. Now you might say, who cares how good of a run defender you are at corner? Well, we've seen with Tariq Woolen, who, by the way, dramatically improved. He was the 26th best run defending corner last year after being one of the worst. He had a 76 grade as a run defender last year. One of the least told stories about the Seahawks, about a player that a lot of folks have negative feelings about, but I think is still incredibly talented, and it's way too early to give up on. So you're talking about one of the best run defenders, and I think a lot of teams try to isolate corners nowadays in the run game to make them support in that part of the offense. And having guys that are able to counter that is a big deal. Now, as far as coverage goes, Jalen Ramsey had a 71.9 coverage grade last year. That is decent. It's not great, but it's decent. He had a 77.8 coverage grade in 2022, 85.8 in 2021. He's been a pretty good cover corner during that time. But let's take a look and see what Field Vision thinks about. Let's see what Field Vision thinks about Mr. Ramsey. This is their beautiful, colorful coverage chart for him. First of all, you'll see that he is the 46th ranked corner overall last year by Cody Alexander and his Havoc ranking. But the thing that really jumps out to me, he was the 8th ranked man cover corner by Cody Alexander in Field Vision. That matters because the thing that the Seahawks struggled with last year was zone defense. In fact, I'm kind of curious if I can go over to ftnfantasy.com, if they'll give me this. By the way, you can get access to ftnfantasy.com, Stats Hub, the same things I'm looking at right now. Use promo code HBAM, gets you 15% off. It's a great deal. It's also a great Father's Day present, as a matter of fact. So if you want to do something nice for dad, I've actually got some Father's Day specials I'm going to be telling you guys about soon. All right. So let me look. Let me look at zone defense. All right. Defense, passing, coverage types. And let's look at man cover rates. Do they have zone? Let's see. Yards per dropback versus zone defense. That's pretty cool. I'll show you guys what I'm looking at so you can see it along with me. So this is Stats Hub. Very cool over at ftnfantasy.com. Zone yards per drop back. I would expect the Seahawks to be very bad on this. So you see Denver, Philadelphia, KC, they're all up high on I expect the Seahawks to be higher on this one, for the matter of fact. So this is man, this is zone. Seahawks were 16th in the NFL in zone yards per dropback. Where were they on man yards per dropback? Seahawks were 4th, according to this. That's different than what I've heard and seen elsewhere, which I find interesting all by itself. When I was talking to Cody Alexander about this, one of the things he mentioned was that zone coverage was a weak spot for the Seahawks, that they struggled a little bit in man. And the fact that Jalen Ramsey is the 8th ranked man cover corner, even in a year where he wasn't at his best, I think is something to keep an eye on. His run defense, he got him all the way down here at 94th, which is not great. So he does not have him as a good run defender, at least last year. Let's look at 2022, his last full season. He was the 10th ranked run defending corner that year. But it's interesting looking at, he was a 6th ranked corner overall. When you look at Jalen Ramsey's numbers and it now, so this is 2022. 2023, he lost a lot of the year to injury, so I kind of don't think that's a relevant season. But he was the 96th man cover corner in 2022 and the 23rd zone cover in 2022. Then you go to 24 and it flips. He was the 8th ranked man cover and the 108th zone cover. So I don't know what's going on there. Makes me want to look throughout his career a little bit more. 2021, it flips again. He was the 5th ranked zone and the 67th ranked man. 2020, 3rd ranked zone, 41st ranked man. So 2024 is a little bit of an aberration in terms of his man cover. He was the 8th ranked at least by this measure. And you kind of see like he's a guy that can play on either side. But if you were to add Jalen Ramsey, one of the things that's interesting to me about Jalen Ramsey is he is there. I don't care. His age does not matter to me when you're talking. Your other alternatives are Shaquille Griffin and Rasul Douglas. Like the thing is you are going to add a cornerback. You're going to do it. Rasul Douglas is 30 years old. Shaquille Griffin is, that is not what I meant to look up. Shaquille Griffin, I think, he might be a little bit younger. He's 29. So you're talking about the same age range, and there's just no comparison. Jalen Ramsey is a much more valuable player. The other aspect about potentially adding Jalen Ramsey is the Rams want him. They've openly discussed it. They have said publicly. Sean McVay, not more than a few days ago, said, yes, we're still looking into that. We know that the Dolphins actually already want to trade him. So I think he is on the block. So unlike Trey Hendrickson, where the Bengals do not want to trade him, the Dolphins do. You've got a team in the division that you could be your primary competition for the division who wants him and has had him before and won a Super Bowl with him. So the fact that you talk about adding a guy like Jalen Ramsey, let's also talk about where is he in terms of his contract? I don't know his situation. I don't think he's looking for a new contract at this point. So Jalen Ramsey, he is signed through 2028. So it's not going to be a new deal. He is 16.6 million against the cap this year. The Dolphins would save $9.9 million against the cap after June 1st. So again, I think a lot of these trades are waiting to happen till after June 1st. Unlike when you release somebody and you can designate them as a post June 1st release, trades, I believe, have to actually transact after June 1st. So it makes sense that they could move on. He is There's a lot of money left to be paid to him, but you could save. I'd be interested to see what this would look like, what the contract would look like after the trade, and what you'd be dealing with there. If you look at the over the cap valuation, they see him as a like $11 million a year player who's getting paid $24 million a year. So, there's no question you're talking about a guy in his decline, but I think you could get out of the contract within the next couple seasons. He's at a position that you already know you're trying to add competition to and add quality to. And I think the trade to get him, I think you're talking at most a third round pick. I can't imagine it would be more than a third round pick. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a fourth round pick, to be honest, because you're picking up that contract. Could be a fifth round pick. It's not going to be a high cost to bring in Jalen Ramsey. And then you're talking about a situation where you could go Jalen Ramsey and Reek Woolen on the outside and Witherspoon in the middle. And when you want to put Nicky Manwari at big nickel, you can have your choice of Ramsey, Woolen, Witherspoon on the outside. Puts you in a very, very strong position. I think it makes you, if you're not already, it makes you the best secondary in the NFL. Now, I don't think Ramsey is anywhere close to the player he has been, but he's never been a speed-based player. His physical tools, I don't think, are going to erode in the same way. I think in some ways he reminds me of Patrick Peterson, just a bigger corner who is savvy and competitive and will probably be a decent player for the next few years. And I don't mind taking him out of the hands of a division rival either. And it's kind of an interesting pairing. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and let me make a poll in the chat on YouTube. I want to make sure this still works. Oops. All right. I got to switch my account for some reason. It has me logged in as the wrong person. I'm not me. All right. So now I can create a poll. So I'm going to start a poll. Who would you prefer? And this is, you got to take into account the contract. You got to take into account the contract. You got to take into account the age. You got to take into account the cost of the trade, the need, and then the general impact. All right. So I've got the poll just started running in chat. Would you prefer Trey Hendrickson or Jalen Ramsey if you could pick between the two? And it's fun to watch this kind of come in. Right now, Trey Hendrickson's winning, but it's going back and forth. Consider that the more realistic trade is the Jalen Ramsey trade. But the Trey Hendrickson thing is absolutely something that you should not sleep on John Schneider getting involved in. This is a guy, keep in mind, we know that the Seahawks asked about Max Crosby when they were trading Geno Smith down there. They want to add somebody of Trey Hendrickson's profile, but it's going to cost a lot of money and it's going to cost a lot in trade compensation to do it. And then I'm going to start another poll here in just a second because I want to see. It looks like Trey Hendrickson is winning. We've got 52 votes, and so far Trey Hendrickson's got 62% of the vote. So very strong majority. All right, so I'm ending that poll. I'm going to start another poll here, and we are going to say, who would you include? Which trade would you prefer? And we're going to say the first one is Boye Mafe plus a fifth, or Uchenna Nwosu plus a second. All right. I'm curious which you guys would prefer if you had to, include one of these players. Which would you prefer to make the move on? And this is interesting. Right now it's 50-50. It's trending towards Boye Mafe. Now it's back to Uchenna. Yeah, this is a tough one. This is a tough part of evaluating this kind of trade. And I see people saying, no, I don't want to do either, but that's no fun. That's not the point of today's show. We're gonna live in the world of possibility, not in the world of negativity, which, look, I have been very dismissive of the Trey Hendrickson trade idea. I think there's more to it than I really just don't like. We've gone through the Patrick Kearney year. Like we got a great year out of him, 14 and a half sacks, I think, one year, and then he was nothing. We went through the Grant Wistrom thing. We've gone through like these older edge guys, Carlos Dunlap. Yes, you get something there, but generally speaking, it's not a great idea to acquire aging veteran players on their third contracts. Like, that's not great. Right now, with 51 votes, Uchenna Nwosu plus a second. Oh, it's 50-50. It's exactly even. 52 votes. 52 votes. Now it's back to, it's right neck and neck. I'm going to leave this one open for a while, but it's really interesting to see what people value here. I think if it was up to me, I think, I think I lean towards the Boye Mafe one a little bit, but just a little bit, because I value draft picks so much, and a second round pick is a very high cost. But it's not easy. It's not easy. So, I'm curious, like, how you guys feel. Maybe it sounds like everybody it sounds like there's a lot of folks that just like don't make the trade. That's possible. I will also open up. There's another thing with the Miami deal where it came out yesterday that they were talking about maybe trading Jonnu Smith, their tight end, to the Steelers because Jonnu Smith wants a new contract. So maybe the Jalen Ramsey trade would not be a draft pick. Maybe it would be Noah Fant. Now, here's a little let's get crazy for a second. Let's get crazy for 1 second. All right. If the Seahawks, I got to look this up. If the Seahawks traded Noah Fant to the Dolphins, well, interestingly, they wouldn't save anything in cap this year. Is that right? How is that possible that you wouldn't save anything? I don't get that. Well, it says that they wouldn't save any cap space for doing that. They would save $8.9 million next year, though. Oh, no, sorry. That's because I'm looking at last year's deal. They would save $8.9 million in cap space this year. Yes, they would save almost $9 million in cap space by trading Noah Fant. So here's what you do. You trade Noah Fant to the Dolphins for Jalen Ramsey. You've now created $9 million in extra cap space. Then you trade Uchenna Nwosu to the Bengals. Let me say that again. You trade Noah Fant to the Dolphins for Jalen Ramsey. You get $9 million in cap space. Then you trade Uchenna Nwosu to the Bengals. That saves you. Actually, it's going to cost you $8 million in cap space this year. It will save you $11 million next year. So it balances the two out. If you wanted to make that, let's see if Boye Mafe, what that would do. I doubt it would make much of a difference there. If you would save like $2 million in cap space. So let's just play with this for a second. You trade Noah Fant, you save $9 million. You trade Boye and you get Jalen Ramsey. You trade Boye Mafe, you get another $2 million. So now you've got $11 million in extra cap space that you didn't have before. And you've got Trey Hendrickson and Jalen Ramsey. What do you guys think if they did both of those things? It's not the craziest thing. Like they can, from a cap standpoint, they can afford to do that. And from a trade compensation perspective, you're not pulling from the same spot. That isn't the craziest thing to do. And I think you can make the case the Seahawks would have the best defense in the NFL if they made both of those moves. That would be interesting. I'm not saying no to that. I'm not saying no to that. And then all of a sudden, Elijah Arroyo, AJ Barner get more snaps. Brady Russell moves back to being a tight end because Noah Fant's gone. And then you've got Robbie Utes at fullback. Like, I don't know, guys. I don't hate the way that sounds. But it probably won't happen. Probably won't happen, but it's fun to talk about. And that's on a beautiful sunny Friday in the PNW. Why not spend a little time thinking about those two things and maybe both? Why not both? All right, folks, if you haven't already, give the show a like, click subscribe. We're over 20,000 subscribers. Want to get on to 30,000, 40,000. Let's see how big we can make this thing. And yeah, we're going to have fun tomorrow. I think Jeff Simmons will be back. We'll do a Seahawks Saturday with Jeff Simmons. And who knows what we'll do Sunday and Monday. But next week, Monday, is the first day of OTAs that I can actually attend. So I'll be at Seahawks practice Monday. I'll give you a full report then. Looking forward to it, getting my eyes on the guys. Hopefully get a chance to talk to some of them as well. And make sure you click the bell to get notified when that happens. All right, I don't see any super chats, which is fine. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Thanks for doing it. Head on over to patreon.com/hawkblogger. Sign up. Be part of the community permanently. Like, be part of the crew. Would love to have you there. Also get ad-free audio each and every day. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your Friday. I'm Brian Nemhauser. This has been another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care.